Round two, Laker fans. Round two. I don't know if you guys know about this whole internet thing, but it's actually a thing. Good things happen with it sometimes. Bad things happen with it sometimes. We're in a streak of bad things happening. Okay, I'm going to get back into the show. Hopefully, we can get through this stream without any hiccups. We'll see what the heck happens. Okay, so I spent a little bit of and the Montrezl Harrell, the key and the importance of having those two players. So obviously, I did that. And I thought yesterday's performance was obviously kind of a big way of kind of setting the stage on that front. And this is what we're going to expect and hope for as we get into the postseason from those two players. But I just don't think we could turn the page so quickly on Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell and not talk about them more. We talked about them a lot during the offseason. All we've spent our time talking about is LeBron, AD, Andre Drummond in the buyout market, and, of course, the everybody being healthy. But those two players have an incredible amount of impact. This will now lead me into topic number 2. Anthony Davis so far with the Los Angeles Lakers. All right, AD. So he's been back for 3 games now. Already telling me we got to expect more from AD, all that stuff. Let me just kind of go in through, give you guys my thoughts so far of what I think of AD. 3 games in, 2 of 10 from the field in the first game, 5 of 19 from the field in the second game, and 8 of 15 in the third game for the Lakers yesterday against the Orlando Magic. I don't really care about the stats, to be honest with you. Like, I don't pay too close of attention from a stats perspective. And I say that only because it's not because I don't think that that's important or that's key, but you want to give this guy a little bit of time before we really start assessing his on-court play. The most important thing for me is it looks like he's starting to get back into a rhythm. Hopefully he gets back his endurance, his timing, and all that other stuff. He played, I think, 31 minutes yesterday, so obviously minutes are not an issue. Just seeing him on the floor is special to me. Listening to him in a post-game interview is fantastic to me. Yesterday he talked to Mike Trudell right after the game, and then we heard him on the post-game show. So those little things are important because AD is back in the lineup. Now we can start talking about Anthony Davis again. Moving forward for him, and moving forward for the Lakers, to be honest with you, no more excuses for this team for the rest of the way. And what I'm referring to there is the schedule is definitely favorable, number one. And I'm talking about favorable as these next 4 games. You got Washington, Sacramento, who are the other teams? Toronto and Denver. So, and 3 of those games are at home. Things are kind of starting to work towards the Lakers' favor. The role players did their part to kind of keep the Lakers over 500 or whatever the case is, or right around 500 in all those games. And now it's kind of up to Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond and the rest of the role players. It's like, all right, now we could kind of start moving here. That I mentioned yesterday, I think I was talking about the toughest part of the Lakers season was already behind them. So let's move on from that. Anthony Davis so far I think has been fine, but I think we're going to start getting real Anthony Davis here moving forward. And I think over these next couple of games, over these next 4 games, we're really going to start seeing the Anthony Davis that we're accustomed to. He's got to be the best player on the floor every time he steps on the court. He really does. And now it's not a matter of putting more pressure on AD, but it's Anthony Davis. There's no need for any more pressure. He's the best 2-way player in the league. So I think we're going to start getting that from him. And when I say no more excuses the rest of the way, what I'm referring to is I think the Lakers, they just kind of handle the rest of this series, the rest of this regular season in a specific that allows them to kind of stick to that number 5 spot. So Anthony Davis so far, I think he's looking fine, but I think he's only going to look better. Of course, coming off yesterday's game, 8 of 15, much better than his other 2 games where he was 5 of 19 and 2 of 10. Okay, let's keep things moving here. So it looks like LeBron James, there's a good chance he's coming back soon. Okay? So Dennis Schroeder yesterday in the postgame show kind of alluded to this, a little bit without giving too much details, but thinks that, he's going to come back soon. Dave McMenamin and Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN were reporting that James could return as soon as this week. Sources tell ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski James has looked strong in his ramp-up workouts on the Lakers' current road trip, sources tell ESPN. And then LeBron, we know, posted that Instagram video of him just kind of jogging up and down the floor. So I say all this because it looks like we're going to get LBJ back soon. How soon? I don't know. How many games are you comfortable of LeBron James playing before we get into the playoffs? Everybody's going to have a different number, but this is what we got left in the Lakers season. He's been out since March 20th, so this would be technically the 6th week that he's out, like just starting the 6 weeks. 5 weeks he's already been out, starting the 6th week. And I think 6 weeks would technically be this Saturday. Initially, we heard reports about 4 to 6 weeks is what we initially heard. Okay, so keep that in mind because we're getting close to that six week marker. If LeBron didn't come back for, let's say, another 11, 12 days, and he came back May 9th against the Phoenix Suns, so 12 days from now, if he doesn't come back, then he'd still get 5 more games ramp up before the season ended. You have 5 more games left starting on May 9th. That's kind of what I'm looking at this with LeBron. I think there's probably a good chance that he may come back sooner, but if LBJ came back and there was 5 games left in the regular season, it almost makes me think of in the Orlando bubble, which I know it's not apples to apples. I know it's not the exact comparison, but it makes me look back to that a little bit. LeBron, there was 8 games left for regular season games for the entire NBA to kind of get their feet under them. And then the postseason was going to start. LeBron played in 6 of those 8 games. And then, obviously the postseason started. So there's no ideal predicament or situation at this point. But I do feel like if LBJ came back, if he came back even another 12 days from now, he's still going to get 5 games left before the postseason starts. And I hear a lot of people talking about chemistry when he returns. Is that enough time for chemistry? That sounds like a legitimate concern for a lot of Laker fans out there and other national media people. For me, I don't think I pay too much attention. I'm not worried about the chemistry for the Lakers. I'm really not. I think if your concern is getting LeBron James back and whether LBJ is going to have chemistry with these players, it's LBJ. Like, it's LeBron James. I think the last thing I worry about with LeBron James is chemistry. And I think if there's one player to kind of throw him into any situation or any predicament or whatever the case is, I think LeBron's the guy that he'll find a way to adjust. I mean, he's played with a number of different teams, a number of different teammates, and he's a player that is a team type of player. So it's not like the guy is going into games saying, well, I need the ball and I'm going to play isolation. That's not LBJ's game. So I think because he's such a willing passer and everything else, and he's one of the greatest to ever do it, I'm not worried about LeBron James, chemistry, Andre Drummond, Anthony. I'm not worried about that. But if he can get 5 games in, 5 games in before the playoffs start, I think that would be, that'd be fantastic there. Okay, Lake fans, I'm just gonna kind of give everyone a little bit of an update here because, obviously, this streaming is not going as good as we had it planned. I'm probably not going to do some of this roll call tonight. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to kind of keep the show going, and you could probably use this more from an audio perspective than a video perspective because we're having trouble with our video. So quick shout out, by the way, Power Pro Plumbing, Heating and Air. Thank you for being a partner of us on this social show. PowerProPlumbing.com. Anything on a local basis that you guys need from plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, Power Pro can help. So we appreciate their partnership and just keep the show moving along. We'll keep the show moving along, Laker fans. Cheers to everybody. Having some water here. 2 hours of Lakers talk. Then we'll do a little social show action. Tomorrow, Lakers obviously taking on the Wizards. Let me give a quick update here on the NBA playoff standings. I want to spend a little time on this because with the standings, this is obviously always a conversation, and I'm going to be guilty of this. Be guilty real quick, Laker fans. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about how I did think the standings were going to be important for the Lakers. Wherever they land, they land. I don't care about a playing tournament. I know because I think as the dust has kind of settled now with the Lakers and the roster and Anthony Davis coming back and Drummond in the lineup and all that other stuff, Lakers are only getting healthier. And now I kind of look at the standings a little bit different. Now I would be very disappointed if the Lakers, who are sitting at 36-25 right now, 5th place in the Western Conference, I'd be very disappointed if they dropped out of that 5th place. And they have some incentives to stay in 5th place. And I'll explain to you what I mean. First of all, it's not like Dallas and Portland are playing unbelievable basketball. Yes, Dallas beat the Lakers 2 games in a row, but they're playing .500 basketball in their last 10 games. Portland has won 3 of their last 10 games. Both Dallas and Portland won earlier tonight. So, obviously that helps them. But Lakers have I think 2.5 game cushion, 2-game cushion on the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. This is me knowing that they beat the Warriors or they're going to beat the Warriors. I don't know if that game's over yet. Portland won earlier today. So with that in mind, Lakers have a 3-game cushion on the Blazers. Lakers should not fall back out of the 5th place. I don't think they'll catch Denver, but they should not fall out of the 5th place. Now I think that this becomes a little bit more important to make sure that you stay at 5. Because if you could play Denver in the first round, and I feel bad for Denver, but without Jamal Murray, they're obviously not the same Denver Nuggets team. Even though they're playing good basketball, there's a ceiling for that Denver Nuggets team, and there's no question about it. Okay, that's number one. The other thing is, you don't want to let Dallas surpass you, and then all of a sudden you drop to 6. You may very well have to play the Clippers at some point. And it's not about dodging the Clippers or dodging any other team. It's taking the route that you think is most beneficial to your team. And I think it's more beneficial for the Lakers to face the Clippers later on in the playoffs. I mean, doesn't it seem like Lakers and Clippers should be in the 2nd or 3rd round, not the 1st round of the playoffs? So I'm going to kind of, emphasize here with the NBA standings and the Lakers the rest of the way. They can't just mail in the regular season from this. A lot of your pieces back. Anthony Davis should be able to help hold down the fort. Oh, by the way, you got very winnable games over your next 4-game stretch. So I'm going to go definitely with that mantra that moving forward, the Lakers should not be any further back than the 5th spot by the time the regular season ends. We'll see, obviously, what eventually happens. Lakers will have to play better basketball if that's going to happen, but I'd be disappointed if they fall out of that 5th spot. I don't think they can move up to 4th. Denver's got a pretty sizable advantage there, 4 games. And then Dallas and Portland, like I mentioned, they're not playing good enough basketball to where you think they're just going to zoom by you. And you now have help that has come back. Most of the cavalry is back. I know LeBron still is not there, and that changes everything. But you should be able to win some games with the team that you have now. Lakers versus Wizards tomorrow. I'll just say this real quick about the Lakers and the Wizards. Pretty amazing, by the way. I did this on Lakers Talk. Westbrook. Amazing what he's doing right now. Do you guys know that Russell Westbrook has 30 triple-doubles this season? Washington has won 10 of their last 12 games. They had won 8 in a row. They lost yesterday to the San Antonio Spurs. So give them credit. They're playing good basketball. Him and Bradley Beal. Beal averaging 30-plus a night. He had 45 yesterday against the San Antonio Spurs. They lost to the Spurs in overtime. So give the Wizards some credit. Tomorrow's going to be kind of a dogfight, but I expect the Lakers to win the game. So, Washington's playing better than they were in the past, but they're still 8 games below 500. It still is the Eastern Conference, so you expect the Lakers to obviously win that game. Did you guys see, and I'm sure everybody did because this is a long time here, for the last couple of days, you have heard the podcast for All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and with Steven Jackson. Jeannie Buss was on there. It was actually a really, really good podcast, and I like when Jeannie goes on and does some of these. I like getting her perspective on things. She was asked the top 5 most important Lakers of all time. It's kind of interesting. I brought this up yesterday to Michael Town, a little conversation about it. And I'm a little confused on this because I'm confused when people say, well, Jeannie's catching some heat because of her top 5 list. I don't really understand that. This is one of those conversations where anybody's going to give their opinion, and the Lakers have so many greats, all-time greats, whether that's front office, whether that's players, whether that's coaches, that you can really make a case for 10 different people, at least 7 or 8 different people, whatever the case is. So this is Jeannie's list. I was telling Michael Thompson this. I was telling Michael this yesterday. I said who's not on this list, who should be on this list, and probably my number one on this list. Dr. Jerry Buss should be on this list. He's the greatest owner in professional sports. He put the organization in a position. He put individuals, great executives, great coaches in a position to go out there and put successful teams together. He cared about winning. He took over the Lakers in 1979, and they won 5 championships in the Showtime era. Obviously, 5 championships with the combination of Kobe and Shaq, and then Kobe and Gasol. Great coaches like Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, and obviously the branch of Jeannie Buss that then helps get a championship here for the Lakers with Lakers head coach Frank Vogel and LeBron and Anthony Davis. So Dr. Jerry Buss, no question on my list. Another one, this one was kind of tough for me. I was trying to make a decision between Jerry West and Chick Hearn. Jerry West is the greatest executive in the history of sports, history of the NBA. He's just a genius. He discovered Kobe and Shaq. I mean, he discovered Kobe and then brought Shaq in free agency. And then the other one, Chick Hearn, that I was like kind of trying to pick between these two. Freaking Chick Hearn. I love Chick Hearn. I mean, I got into one of the main why I sit here in radio is Chick Hearn is like my freaking idol. I mean, Chick Hearn is the greatest. So there's that part of it as well. The point that I'm trying to make is your list can't be wrong because it's your opinion. And somebody maybe that came up in an earlier generation or an older generation is going to have a different than somebody that's more from the 80s and the 90s or whatever the case is. So however you put your list together, your most important 5 important Lakers, it's very tough to do, by the way. There's Jeannie's list, and then you guys know I have a couple substitutions there that I was substituting. LeBron, I would wait on for me. LeBron, I would wait on until, it's tough on this list because Kobe had 5 rings, Kareem had 5, Magic had 5, Phil here, she has on the list, had 5 championships for with the Lakers. Kobe and Shaq didn't win one until he got there. Then he left. Kobe, they obviously bring him back. He went to with Phil Jackson. So I get that list. And Jerry West was a part of how many championships. So I'm hesitant. I don't put LeBron on my 5 most important Lakers just because he hasn't been here long enough. And compared to the other Laker greats, he's not there yet. See what happens. Maybe in 2 years from now, he's got 2 more freaking championships with the Lakers. Okay, last topic I want to get into. Not going to do questions tonight because we have failed to pay our internet bill, and we are apparently streaming tonight off of the neighbor. Okay, that's how our streaming is going these days. The last thing I want to end with is, did you guys see this list from Dr. J? So the great Julius Erving. Dr. J put up he was on the another podcast, by the way. He was on the Posted Up podcast with Chris Haynes. Big fan of Chris Haynes, Yahoo Sports, does a fantastic job. And the question was asked to Dr. J about his top 2 all-time NBA teams. Top 2 all-time NBA teams. Like, as you can tell right here, there's a player missing. And everyone can make a case of, who their favorite player is in the NBA, their all-time Mount Rushmore, or their greatest 5, or their greatest 10. What you cannot make an argument for, in my opinion, is having a top 2 all-time NBA team and leaving LeBron James off that list. There's got to be a reason for it. And the justification Julius Erving gave was he's the guy who has led the charge in terms of super teams. Players weren't picking their own teams. So Julius Erving, obviously, Dr. J was not happy that LeBron, you could say, put together his teams. That it wasn't the organization putting the teams together. I don't get the argument, to be honest with you. If you don't like what LBJ accomplished when he was in Miami, winning 2 championships, losing 2 championships, by the way, take appreciation to just he's one of the all-time greats in every statistical category. I don't know if he's going to pass Kareem, one day for all-time points, but I will tell you this, he'll get pretty damn close. And to be top 3 in scoring and top 5 in assists when it's all said and done may arguably be the most ridiculous that you're either a scorer or you're a facilitator. He's going to end up in top 3 and top 5 when it's all said and done. He's already top 3, but he'll end up top 5 in assists. He's been to the NBA Finals virtually every year. He takes teams that have nothing and turns them around, which Lakers are part of that mix. And I don't want to hear anything about, well, he brought Anthony Davis over. Anthony Davis had never been past the second round in New Orleans. So, and LBJ in year 18 is still carrying the Lakers and the best player in the world. So this one was a tough one for me to kind of understand where Dr. J's how he rationalized this. So I completely disagree. And, it's an easy one. Karl Malone's not on your second team. Put LeBron James there and call it a day, and this conversation is not going to be had. But it wasn't the case. That was Dr. J's list. I obviously completely disagree. Laker fans, Lakers got the Wizards coming up tomorrow. Pre-game show will start at 3 o'clock. Another early tip-off at 4:30. Be a part of the show tomorrow. You can start tuning in at AM. Obviously, all our local coverage, Q, Sean, J. Will, Zubin, and Travis. And apologize again for our last couple of streams that we've done here on Lakers Talk. We're going to get it fixed. And we'll be back on tomorrow starting at 3 p.m. Thank you for being a part of the show, and we'll connect soon. Thank you, Lakers.